Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the grand chamber of Nexus Prime, the massive space station that served as the galaxy's neutral meeting ground. The walls were made of crystalline material that shifted colors with each breath she took. Around her sat representatives from 12 alien civilizations, each more imposing than the last. The Zephyrian High Crystallarch rose from his throne-like seat. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it back in brilliant rainbows. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. "Human ambassador," the Crystallarch began, "we have called you here today to deliver an ultimatum to your species." Chen kept her face calm. She had expected this moment for months. The intelligence reports from Earth had been clear. The aliens were growing nervous about humanity's rapid progress. The collective speaker, a writhing mass of tentacles with dozens of eyes, pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "Your kind has advanced too quickly," it said in a voice that sounded like 1,000 whispers. "In mere thousands of years, you have reached the stars. This is unnatural." A massive creature that looked like a walking mountain of rock and metal leaned forward. This was Warlord Krex of the Dominion. His voice rumbled like an avalanche. "We have watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. None have progressed as fast as humans." Chen nodded politely. "We appreciate your concern for our development." The ethereal queen, a being of pure energy contained in a shimmering force field, spoke next. Her voice was like music played backwards. "Concern is not the correct word, human. Fear would be more accurate. Your species shows dangerous tendencies," added Ambassador Thix of the Hive Confederation. The insect-like alien clicked his mandibles aggressively. "You fight constantly among yourselves, yet you adapt and grow stronger with each conflict." The Voidborn representative, a shadow given form, whispered from the darkness. "You create weapons of mass destruction, then find ways to defend against them. This cycle of violence and innovation disturbs the galactic order." Chen looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. Each species had ruled parts of the galaxy for eons. They had grown comfortable with their power and predictable in their thinking. Humanity was something new, something they could not understand or control. The Crystallarch continued, "Therefore, the galactic hegemony has reached a unanimous decision. Humanity must be contained before you become a threat to galactic peace. Our demands are simple," said the collective speaker. "Surrender all weapons of war immediately. Submit to hegemony oversight of your technological development. Accept permanent limitations on your expansion beyond your current solar system." Warlord Krex slammed a massive fist on his chair. "Any resistance will be met with the full military might of the hegemony. Your ships will be destroyed. Your colonies will be occupied. Your homeworld will be placed under direct alien control." The other representatives nodded in agreement. They had clearly spent considerable time planning this moment. In their minds, humanity had two choices: submit or be destroyed. Chen listened to each demand carefully. She had known this day would come ever since first contact 20 years ago. The aliens had seemed friendly at first, eager to welcome humanity into the galactic community. But as the years passed, their attitude had changed. They watched human technology advance at an unprecedented rate. They saw human colonies spread to dozens of star systems in just 2 decades. They observed human nature, the creativity, the stubbornness, the refusal to accept limits that other species took for granted. "Do you understand the terms of our ultimatum, human?" asked the ethereal queen. Chen smiled. It was not a bitter smile or a sad one. It was genuine, warm, and completely unexpected in the circumstances. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "I understand your terms perfectly," Chen replied. "They are quite reasonable from your perspective." The Voidborn representative seemed confused. "Then you accept?" "I need 72 hours to deliver your message to Earth and receive instructions from my government," Chen said, still smiling. The Crystallarch's crystal body flashed with irritation. "There is nothing to discuss. You will submit or face extinction." "Of course," Chen agreed pleasantly. "But you understand that such an important decision requires consultation with Earth. Surely the wise leaders of the hegemony can grant 3 days for proper diplomatic process. The aliens exchanged glances. They had expected fear, anger, or desperate pleading. They had prepared speeches about the futility of resistance. Instead, this human woman sat calmly smiling as if she had just been invited to a pleasant dinner party. Ambassador Thix clicked his mandibles nervously. "What does your smile mean, human?" "It means I am happy," Chen replied simply. "Thank you for making your position so clear. It will make my report to Earth much easier to write." The collective speaker pulsed with agitated colors. "You should be terrified. The combined fleets of the hegemony number in the millions of ships. Your entire species has perhaps a few thousand combat vessels." "You are absolutely correct," Chen nodded. "The odds are quite overwhelming." This response disturbed the aliens even more. They had ruled the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten what it was like to face an unpredictable opponent. Every other species they had encountered followed logical patterns. They surrendered when faced with superior force, or they fought desperately and were quickly defeated. Warlord Krex leaned forward, his massive bulk blocking out the light. "Perhaps you do not comprehend the gravity of your situation. The hegemony has never been defeated. We have destroyed entire civilizations who opposed us." "I have no doubt that you have," Chen replied, her smile never wavering. "Your reputation for military prowess is well known throughout the galaxy." The ethereal queen's energy field flickered with confusion. "Then why do you not fear us?" Chen stood up from her chair, straightening her simple diplomatic uniform. She looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien representatives surrounding her, yet something in her bearing made them all pay attention. "Fear is an interesting emotion," she said thoughtfully. "Humans have experienced it many times throughout our history. We feared the dark, so we made fire. We feared wild animals, so we built walls and weapons. We feared the ocean, so we learned to sail. We feared the sky, so we learned to fly." She walked slowly around the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. "Fear taught us that impossible challenges often have unexpected solutions. It taught us to be creative, to adapt, to never give up hope even when the odds seem hopeless." The Voidborn whispered, "Hope will not save you from our fleets." Chen turned to face the shadow creature directly. "Perhaps not, but it will make the next 72 hours very interesting." She moved back to her position and bowed politely to each alien representative in turn. "Thank you for this meeting. I will deliver your message to Earth immediately." The Crystallarch rose from his throne, his crystal body blazing with light. 72 hours, human. After that, your answer will not matter. The hegemony fleets are already moving toward your space. Chen's smile widened slightly. "I understand. Completely. Earth will have our response ready in exactly 72 hours. As she walked toward the chamber exit, the aliens watched her with growing unease. They had expected this meeting to end with humanity's surrender, or at least with proper fear and respect for their power. Instead, they were left with the disturbing image of a human woman smiling calmly in the face of galactic annihilation, as if she knew something they did not. The door closed behind Ambassador Chen Wei, leaving the hegemony representatives alone with their confusion and a growing sense that they might have underestimated their newest opponent. 20 years earlier, Dr. Sarah Martinez had watched the first alien ships arrive in Earth's solar system, with a mixture of wonder and deep concern. The massive vessels descended from hyperspace like metallic mountains, their hulls gleaming with technologies that humanity could barely comprehend. The world celebrated first contact as the greatest moment in human history. Parades filled the streets of every major city. Scientists wept with joy at the thought of learning from civilizations millions of years older than their own. Politicians spoke of a new golden age for humanity among the stars. But Sarah noticed things that others missed. She saw how the alien visitors studied human military installations with particular interest. She observed their subtle reactions when shown human technological achievements, not admiration, but something closer to alarm. Most telling of all, she watched how they carefully avoided sharing any truly advanced technologies, offering only basic improvements to existing human designs. 3 months after first contact, Sarah received an unexpected visit at her quantum physics laboratory in Geneva. The man who entered her office looked ordinary enough, middle-aged, wearing a simple gray suit with tired eyes that seemed to have seen too much. "Dr. Martinez," he said, settling into the chair across from her desk. "My name is Director Williams. I represent a group of people who share your concerns about our new galactic neighbors." Sarah set down her coffee cup carefully. "What concerns?" Williams smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "The same ones that keep you awake at night. The same ones that made you run those probability models about alien invasion scenarios last week." Her blood went cold. Those models were on her personal computer, encrypted and hidden. "How do you know about that?" "Because we have been watching you, just as we have been watching several hundred other brilliant minds who asked the same uncomfortable questions." Williams leaned forward. "Tell me, Doctor, what did your models conclude?" Sarah hesitated, then decided she had nothing to lose. "That the aliens are not here to help us. They are here to evaluate whether we represent a threat to their established order. Based on their behavior patterns, I calculate an 87% probability that they will attempt to suppress human development within the next 2 decades. Williams nodded approvingly. "Our analysts reached similar conclusions, which brings me to why I am here. How would you like to help ensure that humanity is ready for what is coming?" That conversation changed Sarah's life forever. Within a week, she found herself deep underground in a facility that officially did not exist, surrounded by some of the brightest minds humanity had ever produced. Engineers, physicists, biologists, strategists, psychologists, all brought together for a single purpose. Project Defiance, as it came to be known, operated on a simple principle. If the aliens eventually decided that humanity was too dangerous to remain free, humans would make that decision as costly as possible. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's chief strategist, addressed the assembled team during their first meeting. "We cannot match their technology directly. They have had millions of years to perfect their designs, but they have also had millions of years to become predictable." She activated a holographic display showing detailed scans of alien ship designs. "Look at these vessels, beautiful, efficient, and utterly standardized. Each species has been building the same basic hull configurations for millennia. Why? Because they work, and because they have never needed to adapt." The display shifted to show human ship designs from throughout history. Sailing ships, steamships, submarines, aircraft carriers, each radically different from its predecessor. Humans, on the other hand, have always been forced to adapt. Every generation of our technology must overcome the defenses developed against the previous generation. Professor Chen, a military historian, stood up from his seat. "The aliens fight like civilized beings. They follow rules, engage in formal battles, respect surrender. These are the behaviors of species that have not faced serious military challenges in millions of years." Sarah began to understand where this was leading. "But humans do not fight like civilized beings." "Exactly," Elena smiled. "We fight dirty, we improvise, we break rules that we never agreed to follow, and most importantly, we refuse to surrender even when victory seems impossible." The years that followed were a masterpiece of human deception and planning. On the surface, humanity continued its friendly relationship with the galaxy. Human diplomats attended alien conferences. Human scientists collaborated on research projects. Human traders established commercial relationships throughout known space. But beneath this peaceful facade, Project Defiance grew like a hidden cancer. Dr. Martinez led a team developing quantum disruption technology. They discovered that many alien species relied heavily on quantum entanglement for communications and control systems. Disrupt those connections, and their carefully coordinated fleets would become confused mobs. Captain Marcus Torres, formerly of the Earth Defense Force, took command of a different aspect of the project. While the aliens watched humanity's obvious military facilities, Torres built a hidden fleet in the outer solar system. Asteroid mining stations that were actually ship construction facilities. Comet observation posts that were really weapons testing ranges. solar research platforms that housed the largest military fleet in human history. The hidden fleet was unlike anything humanity had built before. The ships were small, fast, and designed for suicide missions. They carried no life support systems, beyond what was needed for a single battle. Every cubic meter of space was devoted to weapons, armor, or engines. They were built by people who expected to die fighting, designed by engineers who understood that heroic last stands often achieved more than tactical retreats. Dr. James Park led the intelligence-gathering operation. What the aliens saw as harmless, human curiosity was actually the most comprehensive espionage campaign in galactic history. Every human who interacted with aliens was trained to observe and report. Diplomats memorized ship configurations during tours. Traders mapped base locations and supply routes. Even tourists collected data on alien psychology and culture. The aliens never suspected because they could not imagine such long-term deception from a species they considered primitive. In their experience, younger civilizations were too chaotic and short-sighted for such planning. They looked for threats that matched their own thinking patterns: formal military buildups, aggressive territorial expansion, obvious weapons development. They did not look for weapons disguised as research projects, fleets hidden in commercial installations, or spies trained to smile and ask innocent questions while memorizing strategic weaknesses. 5 years before the ultimatum, Sarah achieved her greatest breakthrough. The quantum disruption technology was perfected and secretly installed throughout human space. Every human ship, station, and colony now possessed the ability to interfere with alien quantum communications. The aliens would not discover this until it was too late to adapt. Captain Torres completed his fleet construction 3 years later. Humanity now possessed over 10,000 ships that the aliens did not know existed. They were crewed by volunteers who understood that they were humanity's last hope for freedom. Dr. Park's intelligence network provided its final reports just months before first contact. Humanity now knew more about alien military capabilities than most alien commanders knew about their own forces. Supply bottlenecks, communication protocols, tactical doctrines, psychological profiles, all carefully cataloged and analyzed. But perhaps the most important discovery came from Dr. Linda Zhang, the project's xenopsychologist. She had spent 2 decades studying alien behavior patterns, and her conclusion was both encouraging and terrifying. "They have forgotten how to lose," she reported to the project leadership. "Every species in the hegemony has been dominant for so long that they cannot conceive of defeat. This makes them incredibly dangerous when they feel threatened, but it also makes them vulnerable to strategies they cannot predict." Director Williams, now gray-haired and bearing the weight of 20 years of secrets, nodded slowly. "So when the time comes, we will give them something they have never faced before." "What is that?" asked Sarah. Williams smiled the same tired smile he had worn in her laboratory so many years ago. "Humans who refuse to lose, even when losing, is the logical choice." The preparations were complete. Humanity was as ready as it could be for the war that everyone knew was coming. Now all they had to do was wait for the aliens to make their move. When Ambassador Chen's message arrived from Nexus Prime carrying news of the hegemony's ultimatum, Sarah was ready with humanity's response. They would smile, and then they would fight. Ambassador Chen Wei returned to the Grand Chamber of Nexus Prime exactly 72 hours after receiving the hegemony's ultimatum. She carried a simple data pad and wore the same calm smile that had disturbed the alien representatives during their previous meeting. The assembled aliens watched her approach with anticipation. They expected either humanity's unconditional surrender or desperate pleas for mercy. Some of them had already begun making plans for governing the human territories after the inevitable conquest. The Zephyrian High Crystallarch's crystal body pulsed with impatient energy. "Human ambassador, have your leaders seen reason? Do you accept our terms?" Chen placed her data pad on the central table and activated its holographic display. "My government has carefully considered your generous offer," she began, her voice pleasant and conversational. "After extensive deliberation, We have decided to respectfully decline. The chamber erupted in surprised clicks, roars, and otherworldly sounds as the alien representatives reacted to this unexpected response. They had dealt with hundreds of species over the millennia, and none had ever refused a hegemony ultimatum. Warlord Krek slammed his massive fist on his chair. Then you choose extinction. Your species will be wiped from the galaxy. Chen's smile widened. Perhaps, but before that happens, we thought you might be interested in some information we have gathered. She touched the datapad, and the holographic display filled with detailed schematics of Zephyrian warships. The crystal being gasped as he recognized classified designs that even most of his own military commanders had never seen. These are the blueprints for your latest dreadnought class, Chen explained casually. We found the structural weakness, in the crystal matrix particularly interesting. A resonant frequency of precisely 7.3 terahertz will cause catastrophic cascade failure throughout the entire hull. The display shifted to show collective bioships. Your living vessels are remarkable achievements in biotechnology. However, they share a common vulnerability in their neural network design. Interrupt the quantum entanglement pathways that coordinate their movements, and they become as helpless as jellyfish in a storm. The collective's speaker began pulsing with agitated colors. Impossible. Those designs are stored only in the most secure locations. Location 77 Alpha on HiveMind Station Nexus? Chen asked innocently. Or do you mean the backup files in the deep core memory banks of your homeworld? We found both locations quite accessible once we understood your security protocols. The hologram continued cycling through classified information from every hegemony, species, Dominion fortress designs with marked weak points, ethereal energy containment systems with highlighted failure modes, Hive Confederation tactical manuals with notes on how to exploit their predictable attack patterns. Ambassador Thix's mandibles clicked in panic. How did you acquire this intelligence? We have monitoring systems throughout the galaxy. Chen gestured to another section of the display, showing detailed surveillance records. You mean these monitoring systems? We have been aware of them for 15 years. Every human ship, station, and colony has been designed to give you exactly the information we wanted you to have while hiding what we preferred to keep secret. The Voidborn representative emerged from the shadows, its form rippling with agitation. Your diplomats, traders, and tourists, they were all spies? Not all of them, Chen admitted. Some were genuine scientists and merchants. But yes, a significant number were trained intelligence operatives. We found it remarkably easy to gather information when you assumed we were too primitive to pose a real threat. The ethereal queen's energy field flickered with something that might have been fear. This is impossible. No single species could penetrate our security system so thoroughly. Chen nodded sympathetically. You are absolutely correct. No single species that thought like you could accomplish such a feat. But humans do not think like you. She walked around the chamber as she had before, but now the aliens shrank back from her presence. The small human woman suddenly seemed far more dangerous than any of the massive beings surrounding her. You see, she continued conversationally, you have all been galactic powers for millions of years. You think in terms of formal military engagements, honorable combat, and civilized rules of warfare. These concepts are completely alien to humanity. The display showed historical footage from Earth, ancient battles, medieval sieges, modern guerrilla warfare. We learned to fight in ways you would consider barbaric. We learned to smile at our enemies while planning their destruction. We learned that sometimes the weakest fighter wins by refusing to follow the rules that the strong take for granted. Dr. Martinez had joined the transmission from Earth, her face appearing on the holographic display. The quantum disruption technology has been installed throughout human space for the past 5 years, she announced cheerfully. Every human facility now has the ability to interfere with your quantum communication networks. We have been testing it on your monitoring systems without you noticing. Captain Torres appeared next, his military bearing evident even through the hologram. The hidden fleet is fully operational and awaiting orders. We have constructed over 10,000 combat vessels in locations your sensors never detected. They are crewed by volunteers who understand that this may be humanity's last stand. The alien representatives stared at the humans in growing horror. They had expected a primitive species that would either submit or die quickly. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that had been preparing for war while smiling and shaking hands for 2 decades. The Crystallarch's voice was barely a whisper. "You planned this from the beginning?" Chen shook her head. "Not from the very beginning. It took us about 3 months after first contact to realize what you truly intended. But once we understood, yes, we began planning immediately." "But why?" demanded the collective's speaker. "We offered you membership in the galactic community. We shared technology and knowledge." "You offered us a cage," Chen replied simply. "A comfortable cage, perhaps, but still a cage. You wanted to limit our growth, control our development, and ensure that we never became a threat to your established order." She activated another section of the display, showing Earth's hidden military preparations. "Humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war." We prepared very thoroughly. The ethereal queen's energy field was now fluctuating wildly. "Your entire species is insane. No rational beings would choose certain death over comfortable subjugation." Chen's smile became absolutely radiant. "And that, Your Majesty, is exactly why you will lose." The chamber fell silent except for the various sounds of alien distress. The representatives who had entered this meeting confident in their superiority were now faced with the realization that they had been outmaneuvered by a species they considered beneath their notice. Warlord Krex made one last attempt to salvage the situation. "Even with your preparations, you cannot defeat the combined might of the hegemony. Our fleets outnumber yours by thousands to 1. "You are absolutely correct," Chen agreed pleasantly. "We cannot defeat you in a fair fight. Fortunately, we have no intention of fighting fairly." She began walking toward the chamber exit. "You wanted our answer to your ultimatum. Here it is. Humanity declines your generous offer of slavery. We choose freedom, even if that choice costs us everything." At the doorway, she turned back to address the stunned aliens one final time. "Oh, and one more thing. Your fleets are already moving toward human space, correct?" The Crystallarch nodded numbly. "Excellent," Chen beamed. "We have prepared such a warm welcome for them." As the door closed behind her, the hegemony representatives sat in shocked silence. They had ruled the galaxy for eons by making other species choose between submission and death. Now they faced an enemy that chose death with a smile, and somehow made it seem like victory. For the first time in millions of years, the masters of the galaxy felt something they had almost forgotten: fear. The war was about to begin, and they were no longer certain who would win. The first hegemony battle fleet arrived at the edge of human space 3 days after Ambassador Chen's defiant response. Admiral Zixthon of the Crystalline Armada commanded over 2,000 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything in humanity's known arsenal. He expected the conflict to end within hours. The humans had other plans. Captain Maria Santos watched the alien fleet approach from the bridge of her small destroyer, the UES Defiance. Her ship was one of 50 vessels that made up humanity's official defensive force. The ships the aliens knew about and had dismissed as insignificant. "Contact from the alien flagship," reported her communications officer. Admiral Zixthon's crystalline face filled the main screen, light refracting through his angular features. "Human vessels, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Disable your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Santos smiled the same calm smile that had become humanity's signature expression. "Admiral, we appreciate your concern for our safety. However, we must respectfully decline your generous offer." The alien admiral's crystal body flashed with irritation. "Then you choose death. All ships advance and engage." The hegemony fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging with deadly energy. It was a beautiful sight. Thousands of vessels moving with precision that spoke of millions of years of military tradition. Santos opened a channel to the hidden fleet. "All units, this is Defiance Actual. Execute Plan Omega." What happened next? defied every expectation the aliens had about civilized warfare. From behind asteroids, inside abandoned mining stations, and beneath the surfaces of barren planets, humanity's true fleet revealed itself. The ships that emerged were nothing like the sleek vessels the aliens were accustomed to. They were ugly, angular things built for one purpose: to hurt the enemy as much as possible before dying. Commander Jake Morrison piloted one of these suicide ships, officially designated as Ramming Vessel 7. His craft was essentially a missile with a human guidance system. No life support beyond what was needed for a single battle, no armor except around the pilot compartment, and a warhead powerful enough to crack a dreadnought in half. "Remember," he transmitted to his squadron, "we are not trying to survive this fight. We are trying to make them remember us." The hidden fleet attacked in ways that violated every rule of galactic warfare. Instead of engaging in organized battle lines, they swarmed like angry insects. Instead of attempting to disable enemy vessels, they aimed for total destruction. Instead of retreating when outnumbered, they accelerated toward their targets. Admiral Zixthon watched in horror as 3 of his heavy cruisers vanished in nuclear fireballs. The human ships were ramming his vessels at full speed, detonating their warheads at the moment of impact. It was madness, but it was devastatingly effective madness. "Evasive maneuvers," he commanded. "Maintain formation discipline." But maintaining formation proved impossible when the enemy refused to follow any predictable pattern. The human ships attacked from every direction at once, appearing from hiding places that should not have existed, using tactics that no rational species would consider. Dr. Sarah Martinez activated the quantum disruption network from her command center deep beneath Geneva. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Ships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly began wandering aimlessly as their quantum communication systems failed. 2 collective bio-ships collided with each other when their shared consciousness was severed. A Dominion battle group opened fire on their own support vessels when their identification systems malfunctioned. The ethereal energy beings found themselves trapped in their containment fields when the quantum locks controlling their freedom of movement became scrambled. Lieutenant Commander Zhang Wei led a squadron of conventional human destroyers against a formation of Zephyrian crystal ships. His vessels were hopelessly outgunned, but Zhang had studied the intelligence reports carefully. "All ships, target frequency 7.3 terahertz, he ordered. "Focus all weapon energy on that exact resonance." The human weapons were crude compared to alien technology, but they could produce the precise frequency that Ambassador Chen had identified as the crystalline ship's weakness. As the energy beams struck the alien hulls, the crystal matrices began to vibrate at their natural frequency. The effect was spectacular. The beautiful crystal ships shattered like wine glasses, struck by an opera singer's high note. What should have been a routine engagement became a massacre, as the alien vessels destroyed themselves from within. Admiral Zixthon's flagship shuddered as human missiles found their target. The humans were not aiming for his weapons or engines. They were targeting his command center directly. They wanted to kill him personally, not just defeat his fleet. "This is not warfare," he transmitted on all frequencies. "This is barbarism. We demand that you fight with honor." Captain Torres, commanding the hidden fleet from his mobile command ship, responded with grim amusement. "Honor is a luxury for species that can afford to lose. We cannot afford that luxury." The battle raged for 6 hours, far longer than any hegemony engagement in recorded history. The aliens were accustomed to quick, clean victories achieved through superior technology and overwhelming force. They had never faced an enemy that refused to acknowledge defeat even when facing certain death. Commander Morrison successfully rammed his ship into a Dominion heavy cruiser, taking both vessels out of the fight. His last transmission was a human war cry that chilled the aliens who heard it. For Earth and freedom. Similar scenes played out across the battle space. Human pilots flew damaged ships directly into alien formations. Crews that could have escaped instead chose to detonate their vessels among enemy squadrons. Every human death was purchased with multiple alien casualties. The hegemony forces began to waver. They had expected easy victory and found themselves in a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that seemed to welcome death as long as they could drag their opponents into the grave with them. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "we have lost over 400 ships. The humans have lost most of their fleet, but they continue fighting." Zixthon stared at the tactical display in disbelief. By all logical calculations, the humans should have surrendered hours ago. Their casualties were horrific, their position hopeless, yet they continued to fight with a ferocity that defied comprehension. A new formation of human ships appeared on his sensors, civilian vessels that had been hastily armed with military weapons. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, even private yachts joined the battle. The entire human species seemed to have decided that death in battle was preferable to life under alien rule. "They are all insane," whispered his communications officer. Final blow came when Captain Santos, her destroyer badly damaged and her crew mostly dead, made a direct attack run on the alien flagship. Her weapons were nearly exhausted, her shields were down, and her hull was breached in dozens of places. But she was still smiling when her ship appeared on Admiral Zixthon's main screen. "Admiral," she transmitted, "this is for every species you have enslaved over the past 1,000,000 years." The UES Defiance struck the crystalline flagship at maximum velocity, its nuclear warhead detonating inside the alien ship's command section. Both vessels vanished in a ball of plasma that lit up the entire battle space. With their admiral dead and their formation in chaos, the surviving hegemony ships began a fighting retreat. They had won the battle in terms of ships destroyed, but they had lost something far more important: their confidence in inevitable victory. The human defenders were nearly extinct, but they had proven that the hegemony could bleed. More importantly, they had sent a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity would rather die free than live as slaves. In command centers throughout human space, the survivors began preparing for the next attack. The war was far from over, but the first battle had gone better than anyone had dared hope. The galaxy's masters had learned to fear the species that smiled in the face of death. 6 months after the first battle, the war had spread throughout the galaxy in ways the hegemony had never imagined possible. What should have been a quick demonstration of superior force had become a grinding conflict that was reshaping the very nature of galactic civilization. Admiral Korthak of the Dominion fleet stared at the tactical reports with growing disbelief. His forces had just suffered their third major defeat in as many weeks, this time at the hands of a human fleet that had appeared from inside a gas giant where no ship should have been able to survive. The humans had learned to fight in environments that other species considered impossible. They built bases inside stars, hid fleets in black hole event horizons, and established supply lines through dimensions that most aliens did not even know existed. Every time the hegemony thought they had cornered humanity, the humans would emerge from somewhere completely unexpected. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded one of the new human deep strike vessels, ships designed to appear anywhere in the galaxy, within hours and disappear just as quickly. Her mission was psychological warfare on a galactic scale, to make every hegemony world fear that humanity might appear in their skies at any moment. Approaching the Zephyrian homeworld, reported her navigator, "No sign that they have detected our arrival." Elena smiled as she studied the peaceful crystal cities below. The Zephyrians had never experienced warfare on their home planet. For millions of years they had fought their battles in distant space, while their civilians lived in perfect safety. That was about to change. "Launch the resonance bombs," she ordered. The weapons that fell toward the planet's surface were not designed to kill civilians. Instead, they would create precise frequencies that would cause every crystal structure on the planet to sing in harmony. The effect would be beautiful, terrifying, and completely harmless, but it would let the Zephyrians know that humanity could reach them anywhere. As the crystal cities began to resonate with haunting musical tones, Elena transmitted a message to the planet below. "This could have been something much worse. We choose to make music instead of war on your homeworld. Remember this kindness when your leaders demand our extinction." Similar operations were taking place throughout hegemony space. Human ships appeared briefly over collective breeding worlds, Dominion fortress planets, and ethereal energy farms. They did not attack civilian targets, but they made it clear that they could if they chose to. The psychological impact was devastating. For the first time in their history, the hegemony species were experiencing fear on their own worlds. Dr. Sarah Martinez had made breakthrough after breakthrough in quantum disruption technology. The latest generation could not only interfere with alien communications, but could actually rewrite their tactical databases in real time. Hegemony fleets would arrive at battle sites with completely false information about human positions, turning their own intelligence networks against them. The beauty of their rigid thinking, she explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff during a briefing, is that they trust their systems completely. When we feed false data into those systems, they accept it without question, because they cannot imagine that we could penetrate their network so thoroughly. The war had also awakened something unexpected throughout the galaxy: rebellion among the hegemony's subject species. Races that had been conquered millennia ago watched humanity's defiant resistance and began to remember what freedom felt like. The Keltharian resistance, a group that had been fighting a hopeless guerrilla war for over 1,000 years, suddenly found their attack succeeding as human saboteurs provided them with intelligence about Dominion supply routes. The silicon-based builders, who had been enslaved by the collective for mining operations, began coordinating their revolts using quantum communication methods learned from captured human equipment. Ambassador Chen had established a new diplomatic mission on the neutral world of Haven, where she worked to coordinate these resistance movements. The small woman who had smiled in the face of the galaxy's ultimatum had become the unofficial leader of the largest rebellion in galactic history. Freedom, she told a gathering of representatives from 40 different species, is not something that can be granted by those in power. It is something that must be claimed by those who are willing to fight for it. The hegemony leadership was in chaos. The Zephyrian High Crystal Arc had been replaced twice as the crystal beings struggled to adapt to a type of warfare they had never encountered. The collective's hive mind was fracturing as quantum disruption attacks created permanent gaps in their shared consciousness. The Dominion's military hierarchy was collapsing as human assassins eliminated key commanders using methods that bypassed every security system they possessed. But the final blow was yet to come. Captain Torres, promoted to admiral after his brilliant tactics in the outer system battles, had spent months preparing humanity's ultimate gambit. If the hegemony wanted to destroy Earth, they would have to come to humanity's home system. And when they did, they would find a trap unlike anything in the history of galactic warfare. The largest hegemony fleet ever assembled entered the Sol system 18 months after the war began. Over 50,000 ships from all 12-member species commanded by the ethereal Empress herself and her flagship of pure energy. They came to end the human rebellion once and for all by destroying the world where it had begun. Citizens of Earth, the Empress broadcast as her fleet approached, your species has caused enough chaos. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Continue to resist and we will make your planet a monument to the futility of opposing the galactic order. The response came not from Earth's government but from Admiral Torres, broadcasting from a command center deep within the planet's core. Empress, we appreciate your concern for our welfare. However, we have prepared a small demonstration that we believe will change your perspective on this conflict. The alien fleet was halfway between Mars and Earth when Torres activated humanity's final weapon, the gravitational manipulation system that Dr. Martinez had spent 2 years installing throughout the solar system. The aliens had assumed that humanity's mastery of physics was primitive compared to their own. They had never imagined that humans would attempt to weaponize gravity itself. Massive quantum anchors hidden throughout the system suddenly activated, creating localized gravitational fields that could crush starships like paper cups. The effect on the alien fleet was catastrophic. Ships that had withstood the most powerful energy weapons ever created were compressed into dense matter in seconds. The beautiful formations that represented millions of years of military tradition became clouds of metallic debris drifting through space. The ethereal Empress, her energy, form fluctuating with panic, tried to retreat, but the gravitational fields had created a maze of deadly zones that made escape nearly impossible. Her fleet was trapped in a web of crushing forces that had turned Earth's solar system into the galaxy's largest trap. Impossible, she transmitted. No species has ever weaponized gravity on this scale. Torres appeared on her communication screen, wearing the same calm smile that had become humanity's trademark. Your Majesty, humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. You made our freedom necessary, so we invented new ways to defend it. The Battle of Sol lasted only 6 hours, but it effectively ended the war. The cream of the hegemonies, military forces had been destroyed by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. The survivors limped home to spread the news that humanity had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that could not be conquered. In the aftermath, the galaxy changed forever. The hegemony's authority collapsed as subject species throughout their territory rose in rebellion. New alliances formed between races that had been enemies for millennia, united by their shared desire for freedom from the ancient powers. Ambassador Chen found herself addressing the first Galactic Assembly of Free Worlds, representing not just humanity, but all the species that had thrown off the chains of the old order. Her smile had lost none of its warmth in the years since she had first faced the hegemony's ultimatum. We gather here today not as conquerors but as liberators, she told the assembled representatives. Humanity did not seek to rule the galaxy. We sought only to remain free within it. But in claiming our freedom, we have shown others that theirs was also possible. The Zephyrian delegate, one of the crystal beings who had joined the rebellion after their homeworld sang with humanity's resonance bombs, spoke with a voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The humans taught us that strength comes not from the ability to dominate others, but from the willingness to sacrifice everything for what you believe in. As the Assembly worked to establish a new galactic order based on cooperation rather than conquest, Dr. Martinez presented her final report on the war's technological innovations. Humanity's quantum disruption technology would be shared freely, with all species who wished to defend themselves. The gravitational weapons would be dismantled, their secrets buried to ensure they could never be used for conquest. We built these weapons to defend our freedom, she explained, not to take freedom from others.